not actually on the structure. Bunch of bridges that. Excuse me?
Don't worry.
Okay, all right, sorry about that. Like I said, this is being treated in the same fashion as a township bridge. As far as additional funding is concerned, there is generally, when MnDOT has a federal project like this, when they find out what the original bid amount is, they take out all the rest of the federal funding away from the project and put it somewhere else. In this particular case, since it is for a small city, and as Neil said, this is a repair project. SRF has done these projects before, but there's a lot of time you don't know until you take these two pieces of metal apart what it actually looks like in between the two of them. So that's why there just is a possibility that we're going to have some change orders. Now, one thing in the agreement, it says that we as the county, we need the authority to make those change orders when those change orders need to be made. But we have no intentions of making any change orders unless it's actually required by a state statute, such as the historic issue, or it's required for the structural integrity of the bridge. This isn't a typical project where you're going to have a change order and all of a sudden, oh, we want leather seats instead of we want plastic seats. Those are not the kind of change orders we're talking about here. We're talking about if they take something apart, it's going to take a little bit more work than what was bid on originally, but it needs to be done for the structural integrity of the bridge. That's the change orders we're talking about that we would potentially make here. As of this time, we've got about $2.3 million sitting up in St. Paul set aside for this project. When you throw that on top of what the design was, at that point there will have been almost $2.5 million of state and federal money involved with this project so far. As Neil said, we have two different agreements to discuss here today. The first one is an agreement with SRF, and SRF designed it. In fact, Jameson is going to be the lead point of contact for SRF, and he was the lead designer on it originally. The cost for this, when I first saw it, was a little shocking. $294,988. We did have a conversation with the folks in the bridge office that have worked on similar historic bridges like this, and they say, yeah, it's a lot more on a percentage basis than a typical bridge, but this is not a typical bridge, and they were fine with that number. Right now, we have set aside motor vehicle sales tax to cover that entire cost of that project, and we have between federal and state money, enough money set aside to handle the initial bid price for the project as it sits today. So SRF's contract does lay out the work that they are going to do, and I'm recommending that the city sign this agreement. These guys are experts in what they do, and like I said, the state folks who have worked on these historic bridges before have blessed off on it that this is actually a reasonable price for this type of work. So I would recommend that the city move forward and sign that agreement. Now, the second agreement that we need to talk about is an agreement between the county and the city. And I have an agreement like this on every township bridge that we build. It's very similar. This was a little unique because you have a unique project here. But it basically says is we've got enough money set aside to get the project, the known cost for the project. The county is required to do the contract administration for this, such as the advertising, which we've done, the letting, and the awarding of the construction project, any negotiations for change orders, and making payments to the contractors, and in this case, making payments to the consultant. So even though the contract with SRF is with you guys, the funding for it will come through the county since the motor vehicles lease sales tax comes directly to the county from the state because we have that financial relationship that small cities do not have. County technicians will set the bench survey benchmarks. that the contractor can use to move forward with the project. Again, this talks about that the city is responsible to hire SRF and who will take care of the contract administration, contract engineering, additional design support, material testing, paint inspection, as-built, and they have hired a historian because a historian is required on a project like this since it is a historic bridge. As with township projects, the city is responsible for the first $10,000 of bridge approach cost. Now, the county, will apply for these Minnesota vehicle lease sales tax funds. We can't apply for it until the project is approved. So they have the money setting aside. I just have to fill out a grant and then have the county board sign that grant to move forward with it for these funds, but the funds are sitting in St. Paul with this project's name on it. So, so we have funds available for the original construction cost and the consultant's fees. In summary, what the city is looking at, like Neil said before, is $10,000. The first $10,000 in engineering fees, or in this cost, construction project management. The initial $10,000 in approach cost. Anything performed by the county engineer or technicians. Basically, we're going to set the survey benchmarks. And I also threw this in here. There just may be a situation where if something, say, a sample needs to get sent down to Rochester, and we could either have SRF have one of their technicians drive from the cities and come down and pick it up and take it to Rochester and charge you 3 times as much as what I charge for a technician. If it makes sense that I could send one of my technicians over, we could pick it up and they know exactly where to take it to in Rochester. We would do that because that's a lot cheaper than having a consultant do the work. I don't expect that to be a lot of money. If it's going to be, unless there's a lot of requests to have the technicians get involved, I don't see that being anywhere over $2,000 at the most. So the agreement goes on to say we will apply for these grants as soon as the approval process gets through. The county does need to be able to make these change orders, as I've talked about. And like I said, we're only going to be making changes that are required from a historic standpoint or from a structural integrity standpoint. So with that, I'm asking that the city council approve this agreement with the county also. Now, as the conversation Neil and I had that we both have us worried is there is an unknown. If these change orders do get to be more, now I talked to the folks up in state aid. They're the group that I'm working with, and so we have some federal money set aside, but the federal money can only be used for 80% of any kind of a change order. So there's the other 20% of the change order that we're talking about, but since this is you guys are a small city, the last thing they want to do is get into a situation to stick a small city or to stick a county on a project like this. Because if they do, other small cities that have a similar project like this are not going to want to work with them due to a lack of trust. So they're telling me that they'll do whatever they can do to try to find the extra funds for that 20%. They just can't make a guarantee right now because I can't guarantee how much these change orders are going to be. This funding isn't an open checkbook. There are limits to it, but they will do whatever they can to try to minimize the financial risks to the city with it. Considering I've been working on this for not 3 years, but 3 city administrators at this point, I'm recommending and hoping that you guys agree with these, to sign these agreements, and we can move forward and get this thing started. Now, as far as the project itself goes, if you approve these agreements tonight, we'll send the next series of paperwork up to the state. The county board did approve this award contingent upon the city agreeing to these agreements this evening. And then we'll get the contractor on board. We'll have a pre-construction conference. They can start submitting a lot of the paperwork in. We're not expecting to see any work out of them at all until next spring. But they do have the bridges in a closed state right now due to the last fracture critical inspection that came back with a red flag on it. So they may want to get out there and do some preliminary type work this winter. The contractor it's Redstone Construction out of Mora, Minnesota. I've never dealt with them, but I've talked to an engineer that works for a consulting firm that's other than SRF, and who says they've done a lot of work with this firm before, and that they will be a very good contractor for this project. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Greg, what's the history of rehabbing these bridges, and have you seen a lot of cost overruns on these situations? You know,
Well,
like we're gonna possibly be liable for if there's.
You just don't know. I mean, it's the difference between, if you're building a brand new bridge, there are very few unknowns because everything is in the plans for what it's gonna happen. It's only changing site conditions would be a change order, but in this one, we don't know. And that's the real crux. I can't tell you that it's an average of 5%, 10%. These types of projects are relatively rare in the state of Minnesota. Just to step back one step, one main reason that the state is really interested in getting this project done is MnDOT made a deal with the Historical Society that if we work together to save 4 bridges in the state of Minnesota that the Historic Society think are unique, are very important, then I don't have to, and all the other county engineers and all the cities do not have to go through a procedure before we start replacing any of the other bridges that are on the system. Before, we had to go through an analysis to make a determination if it was historic. So this bridge, like I say, this bridge is important to the state of Minnesota, to MnDOT specifically, to state aid specifically, because they're the ones that deal with the counties and the cities who have most of these historic bridges. So they will, like I said, they will do the best they can to try to cover those additional costs.
Is the timeline still maybe March for the start of construction?
Yeah, that's just a guess. When we have the pre-con, we'll see what they want to do. The clock will start in March.
Yeah, when the bridge got red flag, now the council voted to close the bridge, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to get things going.
Yeah.
Spring.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Greg? No? Well, thanks for coming tonight, Greg.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you've any other discussion or want to make a motion to accept the agreements with Goodyear County and the SRF?
Can you make them together? Or?
Should I make them separately or together? Let's do them separately. Okay. Motion to approve the 3rd Street Bridge Agreement with SRF.
So move.
I'll second.
Motion by Gesme, second by Duncan to approve the 3rd Street Bridge Agreement with SRF. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And now a motion for an agreement with Goodyear County.
So moved.
Motion by Duncan, second by Montgomery to approve a 3rd Street Bridge Agreement with Goodyear County. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Item C on council business is body worn camera audit results. Bill, you brought that down. You want to take that?
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start on all this. All of us on the council, we have received various emails over the last couple of weeks regarding body cameras, audits, and everything. I don't know if this audit is good enough. I think it has not been done by an independent auditor, because On-Site did it, and of course we, as a city, we deal with On-Site for all our technical and computer-related stuff. This has me extremely worried. We know I think it was our last meeting, or was it the meeting before, we put on hold the request for new body cameras and a separate server, because we, even at that time, we had all gotten emails in great detail laying out things. And something really does not pass the smell test here. All of a sudden, now, when we've already put the police chief's request on hold, now all of a sudden we're getting the body camera audit. Before we had none, and I know the chief is on Zoom here. He at a finance committee meeting, he definitely threw a previous city administrator under the bus by saying, well, he said not to do it. And now all of a sudden it shows up because the chief wishes to have new body cameras and whatever, and everybody probably has read the multiple emails we've seen. I think what we have to do is vote against this audit results, and then at a next meeting or the meeting after, call a public hearing so that, I keep forgetting, Neil, what you, how I want to word that, but that we can discuss, do we even want body cameras in a small town like Cannon Falls, and spend the money when we know the police budget, while they certainly cut some for 2021 and a good amount, it's still way too high. So it's my opinion that we do not approve this audit. And then if the council goes that route, then we can set a public hearing to discuss this whole issue so that the public has some input, because there appears to be back in 16 some discrepancies on whether there was even a body cam policy approved at that time. And I know, Derek, at a police commission meeting, you had asked about that too in the record. So that's why I brought it down, because I think we should deny this audit results. And I know we both got Jeff and Mr. Kendall on Zoom here if they wish to add anything in addition to what other council members have to say.
Any other discussion from the council on that? Derek?
Would Jeff or Joe want to comment maybe, excuse me, on basically what this audit's all about and your opinion on it? And while I wait, not to sound like a jerk, but just because someone sends an email doesn't necessarily make it gospel, you know.
No, it doesn't, but at least Neil has informed me that other than maybe some slight embellishments, everything there is correct.
Okay.
Say, Bill, was there, I don't know if I got it straight, but there was never a public hearing in the first place?
Well, the record seems to indicate, and I got to be careful here how I say this. I don't want to call it a bait and switch, but something was approved in December of 16, and most of us sitting here, including myself, I believe, Morris, you were the only one here at that point. It didn't seem to have, I mean, this stuff is also long. I mean, the reading alone probably took me about 45 minutes to go through just the one email. They tried to have public input at that particular meeting, but they did not give the public time to mull it over, and what they should have done is brought it forward to a
Notification, in
future
other
meeting.
words.
And, you know,
So what you're saying is basically to go through the steps correctly.
let's go through
What you
that.
mean?
Let's deny this, then have a public hearing on the whole body cam issue. And then as a council, we can decide, do we want to have body cameras or not for a small town like ours? And do we want to spend what Jeff is asking for with a separate server and new body cams when we've already had 17?
Those are fair concerns, but that's not the issue that we're dealing with tonight. Tonight, we're talking about the audit. I know that it's going to be brought
Right.
up at a later date.
Right.
I don't want us to lose our focus here. Going back to the audit, you're saying that it's not independent. Just because we've done business with them in the past, do you think that that legally, yeah, I know that that was brought up in the email, but you think that that is not independent? I mean, the police themselves didn't do the audit, the city didn't do the audit, this was an outside company, and yes, we've done business with them, I get that.
Right.
But I'm saying, I mean, that's somebody's opinion legally, was that an independent audit? And if it wasn't, we probably should have flagged that at the beginning and gone with a different company.
Right, and that might be something we should do, is go with a different firm to do that, perhaps. That's,
Independent legality or Mr. Kendall?
Yeah, I hope that the council can hear me. So I don't think that the simple fact that this was done by the consultant makes it not an independent audit. Now, apparently these folks attached some emails or data to their email that they claim is evidence that it's not an independent audit. So I guess the council needs to look at that and make a determination on whether you feel that makes it not independent. But the simple fact that it was done by the city's normal IT consultant does not make it not be an independent audit. I agree with Matt on that. I think the statute states that the police department itself cannot perform the audit. That would not be independent. Or if the city had an in-house IT department that was, somehow beholden to the police department, that would not be an independent audit. I think having your outside information technology consultant perform the audit is acceptable unless you have some evidence that that audit was not independent.
Well, maybe it was independent, but it's still a fact that it was done by Onsite, who's our IT, and they're selling us the software for the body cameras, and it just doesn't it strikes a...
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor? This is Jeff.
You.
So, a couple of things. First, this policy was approved in December of 2016 by the City Council after requesting public input at a City Council meeting. No public input was offered. The public did have access to that policy prior to that. It was posted on our department page with notice of the policy, the intent to adopt it, the date. I know that there was a request for that. I don't have that. I don't manage our webpage. I think Neil was looking for it. I don't know if he was able to find it. But we followed all the recommendations that were given to us by the league at the time in adopting that policy. The second thing is I just heard you say that Onsite is selling us this software body cameras that were requested. That's absolutely untrue. The body cameras that we're requesting are from WatchGuard. Onsite's, the only involvement they had in it was in helping us determine the amount of storage area that we would need because it was part of the planning of the city's server. So Onsite had no involvement whatsoever in the body camera. The only component that they recommended out of their audit findings was that we should actually go to a system like that. Because right now, our system is managed at server level, computer file management type stuff. And we can't do the independent reports from department level that we had built into our policy. I heard Bill say that I threw one of the previous administrators under the bus. again, when we discovered that we couldn't do it, I informed the administrator, and that was the direction I received. On-site is the IT consultant that we use, and they're the ones that have access to make sure that it's being operated correctly. That's why they were utilized for the audit. So, I mean, the state statute is very specific about what needs to be looked at for the audit. It does not say what an independent audit is, other than it shouldn't be conducted by the department. And what they say we have to do is determine if the data was appropriately classified, how it was used, whether it was destroyed as required, in compliance with two provisions of 18.825. And the audit looked at those components that were required by state statute. And the finding of the audit was that we were in compliance. Now, I believe that the course of action should be to just accept it. And we move on to the next questions that I've heard council members ask, which is, should we have body cameras for a city our size? I don't really want to get into that tonight because I really think that's a discussion best left for discussion regarding whether we should purchase new systems to replace the current cameras, or look at just getting a management software to manage the video of the current cameras. But for what's in front of the council tonight is essentially whether or not this audit was found to the department to be in compliance or not. And I believe that the audit was independent. It's no different than, say, the finance audit that the city gets done. The same company provides other services to the city. That doesn't mean that they can't be independent in finding whether the city is following the guidelines they're supposed to or not. And while I did certainly provide information to on-site to answer specific questions, in no way did I interfere with their ability to provide an independent audit.
Well, I didn't talk about body cameras. I was talking about the software that on-site was providing. I didn't ever mention body cameras.
They're not providing any software. It's done all at a server level. It is just management within the standard Windows platform. If anybody's providing that software, it's going to be Windows, not on-site.
Jeff, I got a question. First, you're talking 17 cameras presently. And the current ones really aren't any good because of the batteries. You said it yourself. So why are we even saying 17 when the other ones are junk or no good? I think that makes people think, well, what are you doing with 17 cameras? I mean, I think it would be...
The simple answer, Morris, is that we're required to report the number of cameras that we have owned and maintained by the department. We have not disposed of them. That means that they're still owned and maintained by the department. Therefore, we have to include them. The reason that we haven't gotten rid of them is that if one of them gets broken, even though the batteries are bad, we may still have to be able to use it.
Okay, but I'm talking about the other ones, before that. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm just saying it makes you look...
lost me. We only have 17 of the model that we're using right now.
All right.
Which is those of which 12 are fully functional at this point. We don't know how many will remain fully functional as we go through the cold of the winter. We have not disposed of the other 5. I certainly could put a thing before council to dispose of those 5 cameras, but until that's done, I have to account for them as owned and maintained by the department.
Right, and that's good. I mean, I'm not...
I think we're getting off track here.
Yeah,
we're not talking about body cameras.
I know.
Yeah, the council's got to review the audit and determine whether it's in compliance with that's what we're doing tonight.
Well, I think it comes down
I would agree with the mayor on that. The vendor for the audit provided you guys with their findings. and recommendations. And what they found was that we are in compliance with the directives of state statutes 13.825 and the subsets of 18.825. And I haven't seen the other information that apparently was sent out, but it's really comes down to the fact that the information that the auditor did was an independent audit of our system. And we're in compliance. All I'm asking is that the council accept the findings. We're moved to the next discussion of whether we keep the system or don't keep the system. But we're going to be doing this again in a few months because of delays in getting this done after it had been ordered at the beginning of 2019. We're going to be at the beginning of 2021 soon, and I plan to have another audit done. So that even though this one covers a greater length of time, we stay on our 2-year request timeline.
Hey, Luke, if you can hear us, could you share the Zoom, the participants? Because I believe one of the council members might have had a question for if Mr. Kendall is still available, but we can't see if he's still there.
I'm still here.
Thank you.
Dave, I'm just wondering, have you had a chance to review these audits, and are they within line of something that you think we should accept, or what's your opinion?
Well, so let me outline the options that the council has here. So one is to just accept the audit, as Jeff has outlined. There's another option under the statute with subdivision 9, clause A, where if the council determines that somehow we're not complying or may not be complying with the applicable law, the council may order additional independent audits. I'm not saying that's necessarily required, but I'm saying that's one of your options. And then another option that Bill mentioned earlier is, once again, you'd have to first make a finding that there is a pattern of substantial noncompliance with the statute. And then if you make that finding, then you could order suspension of the body camera program, but that would have to be done after a subsequent public hearing, because in order to order suspension of the body camera program, you have to have an additional public hearing where the public has and the council have the ability to review and comment on the proposed suspension of the body camera program. So that could not be done tonight. It would have to be done at a subsequent hearing after the public's been given notice and opportunity to comment on the proposed suspension of the program. So I believe from a legal standpoint here, your options tonight are to, number one, accept the audit, number two, order an additional audit, or number three, schedule a subsequent meeting for discussion of suspension of the body camera program.
Heard the options.
Dave, Steve's question was, after the findings, if you got a chance to look at the audit, what would your recommendation be?
Well, I looked at the audit, and the audit on its face does not seem to me to be improper. It seems to be an audit that complies with the statutory requirements. I guess the only question is whether the council lends any credence to the allegations in the email stating that the audit is not independent because the police department has influence over the IT consultant. Yeah. So that's kind of a factual determination for the council to make. But if the question is whether the results of the audit comply with the statutory requirements, I think the answer is yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the audit results.
Second.
Motion is made by Montgomery, second by Gesme, to accept the audit results.
I think that's wrong. They were not in compliance, at least for, 2-3 years. Something just smells real fishy here. I think we're being led down a merry path that we don't need to go. But
Well, let me just comment on that, because I understand that the audit is required by statute to occur every 2 years, and I understand that did not happen. Now, that's a separate question in my mind from whether this audit meets all the requirements outlined in statute for what's supposed to be in an audit. So I think this audit does meet that. That doesn't mean that the city was always in compliance with the statutory requirements, because one of the requirements is that the audit happened every 2 years, and I understand that didn't necessarily happen. So then it's just back to the question of whether the council feels that that brings the city to, if that rises to the level of a pattern of substantial non-compliance with the statute. So that's a question the city has to address. But I think it's understood and accepted that this audit did not necessarily happen according to the required timeframes. I think Jeff has kind of commented on that. And that's a separate question from whether the current audit before you right now meets the requirements of what an audit is supposed to look like, which it looks to me like it does.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept the audit. Any other discussion? Let's have a roll call vote on that.
Bringold, absent. Duncan.
no,
Gesme.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Mattson.
No.
Montgomery.
Aye.
Altoff.
We can't.
Don't vote. The motion passes 3-2.
So we still want to hear your answer.
Huh?
Still want to hear what you got to say.
Maybe later. Okay. Let's get into reports. Kyle, Chamber?
Good evening, council and community. A couple of announcements from the chamber. We now have 186 members, which is up 3 from last year. And so that's impressive with having the pandemic going on. And so, yes, we did lose some, but we've gained more than we lost. And so very positive growth in membership. We do have the Halloween Trick or Treat Trot coming up, and that is Friday, October 30th from 3 to 5 o'clock. It will be downtown Cannon Falls on 4th Street, Main Street, and Mill Street. All children must be accompanied by an adult. All vendors will be wearing a mask and gloves to pass out the candy. And then all of the trick-or-treaters will either have their mask on, because it's a mask, or they'll have a mask. And that goes for the parents. We do need to follow the COVID-19 requirements, and we will have a preparedness plan that if anyone questions that, we will have it lined out exactly what we had required for the event. And we are looking for more volunteers. So if anyone from the community would like to help keep the traffic going in one direction, we are estimating 650 to 700 children, but we do have a 2-hour time frame rather than the 1-hour time frame. So we're hoping that that expands it out. And so the volunteers, I'll just let you know, we do have a costume for you, and so you don't have to worry about that. But you'll all look the same, so that's the best part. Then lastly, Deck the Falls. We are moving forward with the parade at 5 o'clock, the tree lighting at 6 o'clock, and we're working on the firework permit and permissions to be able to continue that. And that contract has been signed, but we need the permissions to be able to move forward. And
Kyle,
so,
is that the same fireworks vendor that you used last year?
yes, it is.
Okay.
And it's the same vendor that the county fair, or the Canon Valley Fair uses. Yes. And so Chad Stevers is a licensed polytechnician. And I think, the grounds, John Birch Park, looked very good afterwards. I didn't hear any complaints. There were no, trash left afterwards. And so that was all a good thing. I know Facebook and the webpage lit up with photos. People loved having the fireworks. And so we want to continue doing that if possible. But again, we do need to follow pandemic protocol of masks and social distancing. That is why we're not doing the ceremony at the gazebo this year. We are not doing the door prizes this year. And so we are hoping that everyone will stay in their vehicles, parked on the street, in the city parking lot, at home, wherever, but we need to practice social distancing. And I know I've had calls on that. I've even had calls as to why we're doing it. And so, there's a lot of people asking for it. They need something to get out for and to celebrate. And I think that's a good thing. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Kyle. Library Board. Was Nicole on there? Never saw her.
Oh, there
I am.
There she is.
Hey, there's Nicole.
Hi. Okay, so I tried to log in last meeting and I had technical difficulties, but now everything's working. And so I wanted to thank you for last meeting approving the acceptance of the grant money from the United Way of Goodyear County, because I have now since then bought 10 mobile hotspots that are available for loan. We already have them available, so if anybody needs a hotspot, please come to the library and check it out. It's a 2-week loan. So this is because we recognize the needs of the pandemic. And also thank you for appointing Karina to the library board. She's very excited. And just a little bit of an update about programs. We started up a program called Mill Street Walkers, meeting up at the library, right outside the library, and then walking around Mill Street and walking around town, wearing masks, but just getting some exercise. That is a Monday through Thursday program, weather permitting. It runs through November 19th. And I'm still doing my Fit Fridays at Eastside Park, weather permitting, on Fridays at noon through the end of this month. And then it'll be converting to virtual. And this is also a really cool thing. We installed a window display in our front windows on Mill Street of some really beautiful gowns that have been made for single-use plastics. And these were made by artist Dina Fessler, and we've done this in collaboration with her and with the Canon Arts Board. And so right now we're trying to get an article written up about that. But please stop by the library, look at those beautiful, beautiful dresses, and there's some information cards in the windows too, so you can see them. And if you want to make an appointment for browsing, you can also come in and look closer. And then moving forward, late last month, early this month, we conducted a survey to hone in on what kinds of programming people would be interested in doing virtually and what platforms people prefer. So we have listened to the responses, and so look for some fun new programs at some fun new times using the platforms that people prefer. And that's all I have for right now. If there are any questions.
Nope. Okay, thank you, Nicole. Is she at the beach?
Figured that would be a really fun background considering we have the snow.
Okay, Finance Committee. Bill, you want to take that one, or Morris?
Bill can.
God, I'm trying to remember what we talked about. Oh, yes, the farmer's market. That was the main discussion point, and I believe next meeting we'll be bringing forward. Mary Jill had an excellent idea, and I'd like to think that everybody here was going to be happy with it. The three of us and the mayor seemed to be very pleased with the potential of that idea. So that's pretty much it on that.
Okay. EDA, Laura?
I don't think my button works on my. No, it's live all the time. So just a few updates. The Goodyear County CARES grant is in its last probably 10 days. So far, we've received 224 applications, and 179 have been awarded, totaling $1.74 million that's been able to stay in Goodyear County. 48 of those applicants have actually been for Cannon Falls. So that's for nonprofits, churches, ag-related businesses, small business. So that's pretty exciting, and so that totals $480,000 that we've been able to get to stay or to put back into our community, to our businesses. There are 7 more from Cannon Falls that are in the queue. We're just waiting for some of their documentation so that we can have a full picture of their file for review. So we're down to our last $500,000 of the Goodyear County CARES grant. So it's good. It's been exhausting but exciting to be able to award those businesses and nonprofits. So moving on to Canon Bells, they did break ground and they were moving dirt and now probably snow starting tomorrow. But they are progressing, and if anyone wants to check out the time-lapse video of them from the time they broke ground to their groundbreaking to whatever has been happening, they do have a time-lapse video on their Facebook page. Goal is for them to also have it live streaming in their copy shop as it goes, and that would be a live feed that would happen during the daytime hours. Cannonball property, I've had 4 inquiries regarding that property. So I'll just keep my finger on the pulse of each of those inquiries.
Can you share who's asking?
I don't think so. It's not Chipotle. It's not Chipotle. I'm sorry.
Maybe we should call them.
So anyway, it's good that we've had, once the signs went up, we had some immediate phone calls. Moving on to Canon Roots, our local food brand that was created with the Blandon Dollars. Website went live probably the beginning of this month of October. So it's canonroots.com. If you haven't checked it out, it's a really beautiful website. I didn't build it, so I'm not taking credit for it. But it does lead people to check out the local flavors and the local experiences that they can have in Cannon Falls. And so the Smith grant that we received a couple months ago, those $5,000 went toward the website. And then also we matched it with some Blandon dollars to do some digital marketing. And in the 3 weeks that it's been live, we've had 32,000 sets of eyeballs see it. So it's really exciting, and a lot of people there's a Facebook page as well, so people that are seeing the ads are liking the page. We have 177 followers. So again, in 3 weeks, that's pretty impressive, I think, for the small budget that we have for it. So we'll continue to, find dollars so that we can help to promote that Canon Roots brand. And then finally, we have about $15,000 left remaining in the Blandon budget. So I did finally pinpoint all the different projects that we've done. So we started with $75,000. We're down to 15. Plan is to have that allocated before the end of 2020. So, any questions? No? Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Staff will go around. Joe, you got anything?
As we see it snowed out, does that mean the police are going to be towing your vehicle? No, because the ordinance does not start until November 1st. But Public Works is going to be out at midnight, so if you want to be able to get your car off the street, you should probably move it off the street because it's going to be well plowed in with that heavy snow. So hopefully we wake up to a lot cleaner streets and slow down and drive safe.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
A couple of items. I thought maybe Kyle would talk a little bit about the Highway 19 project that was, they had visitors at the chamber meeting this morning. The letting date for that project is actually December 18th in 2021, and it'll start in the spring of 22. So we've got another year, another summer yet. They did have a lot of talk about the turning radiuses on the semi trucks, and I know they're putting the squeeze on them on the semis by bringing in them handicap ramps. They tried to explain how they're really not impacting them any more than they are now, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the process after it's all done. One thing that caught my attention was the curbs going east out on 19. They're going to bring them in 8 feet and have the parking there 10 foot wide. I don't know that discussion. Maybe we should have some more discussion on that. I don't. You swing the door open of your passenger car or your driver's car or whatever. You're swinging it right out into the traffic, and I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe we could convince them to make it a 12-foot turn lane instead of a parking lane instead of a 10-foot. So anyhow, that's one of the things. They're going to maintain access to the street and to the businesses as they take up sidewalks and handicap ramps. They're going to do the best they can. Second item is you approved a pool rehab at the last meeting. They got started right away, and they have really torn the vessel of the pool apart and got it down to the existing concrete that's solid, and they'll be, they were working. We'll see how that turns out. So, yeah, that's coming along really nice. It's going to be looking really well by next June. Don't forget the next meeting is November 5th. That's a Thursday. Put that on your calendars. Election is on Tuesday, so we moved that to a Thursday. And then the canvassing, the special meeting to canvass the election is on the 12th at 5:30. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Council, Derek.
I'm sure everyone is anxious for it to be over, but the election's 2 weeks from today, so if you haven't voted yet, just encourage everyone to do that. That's all.
Morris? Nothing. Matt?
Just want to say thank you and good luck to our new Planning and Zoning Commission member, John Christensen, and then Library Board, Karina Fazeri. It's good to see more people that want to be active in the community and give back by serving. So congratulations to them. That's pretty much all I got.
Okay. Bill?
I have nothing.
Steve?
Just what Derek said. Finally, election day is here, and hopefully we can get back to more commercials about male enhancement or something instead of. I don't have it.
Okay. Again, welcome to John, and it's Karina? Yeah, to the library board. Just a couple things. I got a call from Barb Habel, our representative, state legislator did pass that $1.9 billion bonding bill, and the $6 million earmark for the Lake Billsby project, the dam, the money will be there, so they're waiting for that. I think that's ready to go. Yeah, the trucks are there. They're just waiting for that bonding bill to pass. So there's $6 million earmarked for that Lake Billsby. That's gonna be a go. That, like they mentioned last meeting before the elections, please get out there and vote. They've got the corn out on the old Schweik property now, so maybe you people up on Grove Street, maybe we can get up there and do something this fall to help that flooding problem you've got there and gonna might have in the spring. So we'll get that rolling. Okay, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the record, and kindly limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comments must be respectful, pertinent to city business, and adhere to applicable data privacy rules. The city council will not take action on any issue raised by the public, but may choose to schedule consideration of the item on a future agenda.
Babe O'Gorman, 915 North 6th Street, right across the road. These body cams. A lot of data. Seems to be a little confusing. Probably have to have a lot of faith in your chief of police. Keep in mind that he violated state law.
Babe,
Yes.
that was on the agenda tonight,
Yeah?
so you can't speak to it.
Oh. It's all right. I'll speak to whatever I want to speak to. One only has to follow the email chain between on-site and the chief to see how ridiculously dumb this is. Come on. Even a stupid cement man like myself can follow that. It's a joke. There was an officer that resigned, not in good standing is what I think the public record shows.
Also on the agenda.
Yep. What's not on the agenda, and I've been talking about it, why am I being interrupted all the time?
Because you're talking.
Oh, about things we shouldn't talk about, right?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, how am I supposed to talk about your consent agenda? Clammed up now, huh? So anyway, what I've been complaining to several of you about all along is that this little lapse in judgment that this officer committed has been going on for some time, several years. The lieutenant there and the chief of police knew of this, yet didn't bring it forward.
Mayor, is this pertinent to city business? This seems like hearsay and gossip.
Oh, I'm sure it sounds like that to you. All you got to do is ask a few questions. Because I have, and I know exactly what's been going on. Maybe we'll all learn more about it as time goes on. Thank you for your time.
Public input, second call. Public input, third and final call. We'll close the public input. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Lundell and a second by Montgomery to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.